I am Michelle Mills, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my eczema story. So I basically had really severe eczema growing up, and now I pretty much have very little to absolutely no eczema at all. And I wanted to just start, my cats are just like on 10 right now. Hey, can we not do that right now? We have to tell them our story. You weren't even alive for this, okay? You are just a little baby. So let's start from the very beginning. So I had eczema growing up, and okay. Do you mind, Missy? So I had eczema growing up and it sucked. I had eczema when I was a baby. It was on my scalp. I had eczema when I was a little kid, and you can see it in some of my birthday photos. I used to have like rashes up and down my back. And I think I used steroids when I was a baby. I was prescribed steroids for my childhood eczema. And I really wasn't I can't really remember my experience when I was really little. What I truly remember is when I was in middle school, I had freaking terrible eczema. But before we get too far deep into this, I just want to tell you that I am telling you my story because I made it. I'm on the other end of this where I feel confident, I feel in control of my eczema, I feel in control of my health, and I was in a place where I didn't feel in control and everything was scary and weird, and it was like a whole situation. So this story is for you to not feel alone and to understand my journey to inspire you on your journey. So when I was in middle school, my eczema was pretty bad. I had it mostly on my legs. And I remember so specifically, a lot of times they were on my calves and they were about this big and they would ooze. And I know that I was prescribed steroids because I remember the bottle or the little container so well. Like, I know what that little tube looks like without a doubt. Like, it's a little tube, it was a white tube with blue letters, and it had a silver cap, and I would undo the silver cap and put this clear stuff on my eczema. I had no clue at the time what any of that stuff was. And it would spread, and it would be the backs of my knees, and my legs would ooze and bleed, and I would wake up and my skin would be attached to the sheets, and I would have to basically peel the oozing, the crust from the sheets from my legs. And then I would try to go to school and I would wear jeans, and those jeans, I would always feel the oozing. Having this memory right now just sucks. I remember the oozing, I could see it. I could see it through my jeans, and I remember the feeling of my legs sticking to my jeans. I feel like I'm gonna cry. That was such a really tough thing to deal with. It was so bad, and I didn't know anybody else in middle school that had eczema like that. I remember the color of the oozing. It was like a gold oozing. Anyway, long story short, middle school sucked because of that eczema. I think I had it for maybe 1 year. Actually, just to go back, when I was in elementary school, my hands used to crack and bleed, and this was something that happened quite often. And my parents had no idea what was going on, so they thought it was very environmental, and they thought I was allergic to oak trees. And funny enough, today I went to go touch a oak leaf, and I thought to myself, I better, in my subconscious, I was like, I can't just willy-nilly be touching this oak leaf. So that's kind of ingrained into me because of this whole journey. It was can't get around oak leaves or my hands break out with eczema, which is not the case at all. Anyway, after middle school, my eczema kind of chilled out. Oh, you know what? I just remember what I was gonna say when it came to the jeans. I remember pressing on my jeans with my hand to get that satisfying itch feeling. Hated it. In high school and college, it was mild. It would be just like a patch of eczema that was like kind of itchy behind my leg. Like, you know, people who were like, oh yeah, I have eczema too. Like, it's fine, but it's not like severe eczema. That's kind of how it was for years. And so then I graduated college. I decided to pursue my master's degree. So I went to graduate school, didn't finish, different story. And just, I don't know, there was so many different factors. I was 22 years old and my eczema came back with vengeance. I had done the Whole30 over the summer. In college, I had been on a bunch of different antibiotics, took a bunch of different weird medications, took allergy medications, took a bunch of weird stuff. Okay, I just switched to my phone because I felt like the audio from the GoPro wasn't the greatest. So if you're picky about audio and YouTube videos, we're back. Here we go. So we're talking about when I was 22. There was a lot of factors that played into it. When I look in retrospect, I think there was so many factors that played into this. I had done the Whole30 over the summer. I moved to a completely different state. After the Whole30, I felt super rebellious, so I started eating bagels, cream cheese, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I would go through these like cycles of binge eating where I just kept going to the kitchen and grabbing food and grabbing food and grabbing food, and I couldn't stop really. And in May of that year, I had developed a small bit of eczema, like right here. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't the best. I had joined a modeling agency at the time and I kind of covered it up with concealer before I went in to meet with the modeling agency, so that was interesting. But by September, October, November, that little patch had not gone away and it actually started to spread. And basically from September to December, my eczema went insane. Like, it grew faster than I ever knew eczema could grow. It started here and then it was like just freaking all over. And it really scared me. And by that point in my life, I really relied on food for healing. And I was just like, I can't use steroids. Like, I knew too much at the time about eczema to use steroids or to go to a traditional doctor. I wanted to see, like, I started to do research in it and really understand eczema. Found out that it was related to the immune system. So I was like, well, maybe I'll go see an immunologist. At any rate, it was a really hard time for me. It hurt. I did not sleep. I would wake up itching. I would itch. I had skin underneath my nails all the time. This might be kind of triggering for you. If it is, I apologize, but this was my experience. This was my story. I went freaking through it with that freaking eczema. And around December, I had gotten Karen Fisher's book that was like a basis of a diet. And I started eating on that diet. Realized really quickly that my liver was extremely overworked. I probably had fatty liver and I couldn't even eat carrots, which are super low in salicylates. I remember eating these baby carrots and I tried to go to sleep and I had a massive itch attack, which could have been the carrots that got, I think it also was exacerbated symptoms. Basically, my symptoms got worse, potentially because my body temperature raised at the same time. It was a lot going on. And so I got on this like low salicylate diet and I was like, oh, this is cool. Because that's kind of what Karen Fisher does, is hers is kind of talking about the liver with glutamates and amines and salicylates. Tried it and I was like, this is going so slow. And I was like, I just know that there's something missing here. So I started diving into research. I wanted to learn everything, find out everything about eczema. And so like, I feel lucky because I have this ability to have pattern recognition and start to look up different things here and there. And so somehow I knew it was the liver. I knew it was the immune system, and I knew about leaky gut, and I started putting all these pieces together, and I created a diet for myself called the Gut Healing Eczema Protocol, which you may have heard of. And this diet for me literally healed my skin insanely fast. It was focused on Candida, the liver, and healing the gut, repairing the immune system. It did a bunch of things at the same time that sped up the process. So essentially, my severe eczema healed in 3 months. Now, did it come back? Yeah, it definitely came back. So for me personally, my eczema is very related to stress and my gut, and situations that cause stress and my gut to be out of whack. And so if you're somebody who thinks you flare every winter, it has to do with your gut and your stress and the way that you act seasonally. But without giving you too much advice and keeping it just about my story, I remember a few months later, my skin literally cleared, like 100% clear for about 1 month. And then I got like this little patch back up. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, whatever. It went away. And then it was in like September of that following year where, sorry, my boyfriend had just called me and it interrupted the video because I'm filming on my phone. Anyways, so it was around September where I decided to start incorporating goat, sheep, yogurt, milk. Honestly, I've always had an addiction to sugar and chocolate, and so like, I think at that time I ended up with Candida and I ended up flaring, and I actually thought that there was a causation from the goat and sheep yogurt, and I think it was mostly yogurt that I was eating. I think that I created this false, I don't know. I basically thought that the reason why I was flaring was because of that, but I honestly think it had more to do with Candida and a gut imbalance and probably stress than it did actually the dairy, the goat and sheep dairy. So we are now like at my 1 year in the story. We're at my 1 year anniversary of my major flare, and I have another flare. And it's not as bad this time, but it's still there. And it's spreading quickly, it's doing the whole song and dance. And I remember I went to New York City that year it was in January of that following year. So I ended up with a massive itch attack. I was anxious, I got really hot and sweaty, and I had bad eczema. I was like trying to drink like CBD coffee in New York, and I thought it was helping, and it kind of was, and I was eating sugar. Like I ate a lobster tail, which is like a pastry full of sugar. I was eating a cannoli full of sugar. Basically, it was Candida. I'm pretty sure it was Candida. I had gut issues, and it was ridiculous, and I was in so much pain on that trip, and I feel so bad for my friend because I broke down crying and I was freaking out, and she was like with me during that whole time. So going forward, my eczema became mild and everything was kind of good. I ended up moving all the way across the country to California from the East Coast. The stress of that must have caused some sort of flare. Actually, I did have a minor flare, but that actually went away pretty quickly. It was January again. So now this is about 2 years out from that first initial severe flare, and I flared again in that time of January. And I remember it was completely related to stress, which I know for me, it's seasonal stress that I have now overcome. I have been through a year where I did not have that stress-induced eczema. So, ended up with this nasty, oozing, crappy flare, smaller than the years before. It was still there. It was only on, it was on both arms, but this arm was mainly the one suffering from this issue. And so dealt with that, and it sucked, but it was like really nailing down my stress and understanding my stress that has got me through a lot of these flares ever since, but also related to my gut imbalance. Now we're here, and it's like 3.5 to 4 years out from that severe flare. I had just endured a small flare on the back of my knee, and this was from taking a hormonal medication which caused a yeast infection, which caused Candida. I tried to eat the Candida diet, which I think caused hydrogen sulfide SIBO. This is all my thought process. And I'm still doing research right now on hydrogen sulfide SIBO, but basically I've been eating for that specific diet and my eczema completely cleared on the back of my knee. Granted, they're like small, tiny patches. That's for the past year, I have only had small, tiny patches, and it's been amazing and beautiful. And every time I have a flare, I know exactly why it's there. I don't feel like it's out of control, and I understand my body. So looking back on my life, my whole life, I think I have had gut imbalances for a long time. Basically, hydrogen sulfide SIBO can cause IBD or IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or irritable bowel disease. And I know that I dealt with that for a few years in my childhood because I would eat dinner and then I would try to like get up and go walk. My mom and I would like go to a mall or something, and I immediately was sick to my stomach. And it happened over and over and over and over and over, and it was terrible. And I'm pretty sure back then I dealt with those issues. In college, I remember having egg smelling gas. And that is for me personally, that is a sign that I have hydrogen sulfide SIBO. So basically with all of this, I've been coaching people through their eczema journey, learning more and more and more and more and more about eczema. Every person that I coach, and like having this platform, I've learned so much about eczema and TSW and this whole world and this whole thing that now I'm at a place where I teach people how to go through this journey, but it only takes 3 months. And for them, this whole, like what I've experienced for the last 3.5 years, I expedite it down into like a 3-month-long program that takes them maybe 6 months total to get to that point where they trust themselves, they feel confident, they feel like they're free. So that's cool. That program's called Empowered Eczema if you are looking for a coaching program like that. And it should be linked in the description down below, but you can type in coachmichellemills.com or empoweredeczema.com, and then you can start to explore that website. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is I went through such bad eczema, and to be at the point where I have this full understanding and I'm constantly learning more and more and more about your gut and eczema and your adrenal gland and your immune system and your liver. It's like, it's so crazy to me how many different organs are in play when it comes to eczema. So I hope this inspires you. If it does, please just let me know. Like this video, send me a DM on Instagram. There's hope. You don't have to have severe eczema. It doesn't have to be getting worse and worse and worse every move you make. Yeah, it's difficult to go through. I've been through a lot with eczema, and being on the other side, I just want you to know there is another side. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Leave a comment down below telling me your story, or leave a comment down below seeing what type of videos you want to see next. All right, guys, bye.
I like crashing waves, but I wanna see them at first light after a long night, and see the sky take shape. What I wanna see